So let's play the
Pelosi.
Pelosi clip.
Mhm.
So Ady Barkan, the Medicare for All activist, interviewed Nancy Pelosi. It was done for what is it? If what's the name of that?
Now this.
Now this. So the interview is a little bit choppy. There are two things that are on the table right now in terms of Medicare for All, or Medicare, I should say. One has been dropping the age of eligibility to 60 or 55. Biden was in favor of dropping it to 60. Maybe you could do a buy-in at 55. The idea is to get as many people on board in that program as possible.
And Bernie's backing this in the Senate, but not enough Democrats as of now.
And reports were a couple of weeks ago that like there was just not the support for that, and instead they were focusing on expanding benefits for Medicare current Medicare recipient. So dental, vision, et cetera, et cetera. Here is an exchange which I think both confirms that reporting that that's what they're planning to do, and B shows the absolute BS behind that decision.
Separately from strengthening Medicare, President Biden campaigned on a promise to lower the Medicare eligibility age to 60, which would cover another 23 million people. This expansion could be paid for easily in different ways. One of the options would be to empower Medicare to negotiate drug prices just as the Department of Veterans Affairs does, which pays half as much for drugs as Medicare. I know that you pride yourself on representing your caucus, especially when there is broad consensus like this. So, will you also bring forward the bill to lower the Medicare eligibility age?
Well, the money that you discussed about giving the secretary the ability to negotiate is the money that we were spending on hearing, vision, and dental. Now, should there be more money, then we can take it to the next step. But the president is looking at the budget to see how that is. We have $400 billion for home care for our seniors, for people with disabilities, a very top priority for us that we want to protect. If we're using the money for renegotiating prices, for expanded benefits, let's get as much money out of that as possible. The way we're writing the laws, pharmaceutical companies cannot increase the price of prescription drugs higher than inflation. If they do, they have to give a rebate to the federal government of that amount of money.
Well, she gave away the game there, right? So if the key phrase is if we're using the money for the money, she is focusing on a finite amount of money that they've already decided that they're going to stick with and not expand when it comes to addressing Medicare. And instead of lowering the eligibility age, they're going to attempt to, and this is not even a guarantee that they do this, encompass dental, vision, and hearing, which is really important for seniors, of course, but they could do both. She's creating a false choice to Barkan there. And I mean, it's a false choice that allows Democrats to weasel away in this conversation.
Right. And it's all under this sort of rubric of pay for and pay go and this and that. And it's not just a pay for, right? It's that Medicare itself has to pay for the enhanced benefits. Medicare savings, I should say, has to pay for the enhanced benefits as opposed to any new money. And I think that's at the end of the day, expanding it to more people is obviously better for those of us who want Medicare for all. Because the more people you get in the boat, the easier it is going to be to improve the seating on the boat, as it were. And this is just an example of the relentless agenda that Nancy Pelosi has to deny any growth in the popularity or the utility of Medicare, whether it's Medicare for all or Medicare for more. She desperately doesn't want that. And we know this.
And we knew this in the
because of
pandemic
her,
response.
but
Yeah.
even before that, her chief of staff has been out there, you know, slagging Medicare for all. We know this. Nancy Pelosi is an obstacle to more people getting Medicare. She's an obstacle to 60-year-olds being eligible. She's an obstacle to 55-year-olds. She's an obstacle to 25-year-olds getting it, to people being able to buy into it, or for all people getting it. She is a huge obstacle here. Now, I don't know if she was in favor of it, would you necessarily see everyone snap in line? But probably.
Oh,
I mean, it
what
certainly
do you
makes it
mean?
much easier.
She doesn't, her and Chuck Schumer, unlike Mitch McConnell, who will whip the hell out of his caucus, they do not feel they have the ability to, which is right or wrong, whip their caucus into standing together. That's why Schumer is just letting.
Well, they are.
Well,
by denying it, right? I mean, they're, you know, like the Democratic caucus is not the same as Republicans. I mean, that's why Republicans are able to nationalize their elections much easier. They have a, you know, more or less.
They're all
one
pro-corporate
demo.
extremists. Yeah, right.
Yes. I mean, they have one demo, there's a lot more consistency in the Republican position than certainly on the Democratic, right? There's like
all
third of the
roads lead to
Democrats-
deregulation and tax cuts, and then it's just
Right.
it's much easier to do that than
in the Democratic Party, maybe a third, maybe a half of those roads lead there, and maybe there's you know, a third or a half where they're head in the opposite direction, and maybe there's a third or you know, a third in there that's like whatever I got to do. And so that's a big part of the problem. But Nancy Pelosi there is, it's a shell game that she's playing. There are a lot of other things that are being money being expended upon, and one could argue that in terms of infrastructure and support, and if you want to, like, I mean, look, when you lower the age of Medicare, and I'm not arguing for this in lieu of Medicare for all, arguing for it in lieu of increasing benefits for Medicare as it stands, or even in conjunction with. When you lower the age of Medicare, you are doing a couple of things. You're obviously, you're getting more people to vote, 20 million more Americans who are going to be on a single payer system. You're probably getting very, very close at that point to a majority of Americans on a single payer system in this country, either Medicaid or Medicare. That 20 million may actually put it over the edge.
wow, yeah, can't have that.
And you can't have that because then all of a sudden it's like, well, wait a second. We already have more than half of the country is on it and they love it. Why wouldn't we do this? But what you also do is the other sort of like knock-on benefits are you're freeing up more people to maybe go into retirement or maybe go into semi-retirement and opening up jobs for younger people and opportunities. There's a lot of people who stay working like 60 to 65 because like they need that health care till they get into Medicare. You're opening up jobs for people. I mean, there's a whole host of reasons why we should be doing it, but of course.
I also love the bit that I don't want to get lost in there, but when he asks if CMS can negotiate drug prices the same way the VA does, and she says, no, we can't do that. But when they do increase prices beyond inflation, we get a rebate check. It says nothing for the people who are actually paying for these drugs out of pocket in any way.
Right.
Just that the balance sheet looks good.
Yep. It's sick. It really is sick.
I mean, and it's sick to say that to Barkan's face specifically. I mean, there's a lot that there's a lot of gall there.
Folks, there's more of what you've just saw where that came from. That's if you hit the subscribe and like button. Thank you. Really, thank you.